Viewers, we've seen over the course of the last several weeks how Hindus have been hounded and attacked in Bangladesh. ISKCON priests have been arrested and jailed on charges of sedition. The lawyer of one of the arrested monks was allegedly beaten up a day before his bail hearing. And of course, open threats are also being issued. Hindu homes have been vandalized and even torched in some instances. Now, India has time and again taken up the matter, with the interim government of Bangladesh expressing concern over the state of affairs. Those returning from Bangladesh have revealed the horror unfolding in the neighboring nation and how the minority community is living under fear. And the international community is also vocal and raising the plight of Hindus in Bangladesh forcefully. Let's go across to Brad Sherman, Congressman in the United States, joining us live. Congressman Sherman, thank you so much for joining us. Your recent statement emphasizes the urgent need for the protection of Hindu minorities in Bangladesh. You've mentioned the responsibility of Bangladesh's interim government to protect its Hindu minorities and other minorities. How do you assess the current government's response to these violent attacks? Do you think they've met their obligations?
I think they could and should do a much better job. We all look forward to Bangladesh restoring peace and restoring elected democracy. In the interim, you could see extremist Islamic forces, sometimes funded from outside Bangladesh, planting the seeds of communal violence.
You've referenced calls for an investigation by organizations like the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council and the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk. Do you see any sign that these calls for investigation are being taken seriously by the Bangladeshi government?
Not yet, but I think it's important for India and the United States to get the interim government to take the world's concerns seriously and to call for an international investigation. We would hope that when the voters go to the polls in Bangladesh, they vote for intercommunal harmony rather than being distracted by extremist rhetoric.
But how do you respond to the argument that is being given by the Bangladesh government that calling for intervention by United Nations or other human rights organizations is tantamount to interfering directly in the matters of an independent country and infringing on its sovereignty? How would you respond to these arguments that are being made by Bangladesh?
The United States speaks out on human rights. Non-governmental organizations speak out on human rights. Your TV station speaks out on human rights and will continue to do so. What is an interference, I haven't seen this documented with regard to Bangladesh, but we've seen certain extremist Muslim organizations, sometimes with affiliations with certain governments, funding under the table and secretly extremist organizations in a variety of Islamic countries, and that is interference. Everything that I'm suggesting that America do is obviously above board, and nothing is being done secretly.
And what's the role that you envision for India as Bangladesh's neighbor in a situation like this?
Obviously, India plays a critical role with regard to Bangladesh, both in terms of trade and played a critical role in Bangladesh's independence. I think it's important that tag in the back of the garment that says made in Bangladesh gets people to say they want to buy the garment rather than the opposite. And I think that can be achieved if Bangladesh shows that it treats its minorities appropriately, not just the Hindu minorities, but Christian and Buddhist and others as well. And at the same time moves, the interim government has a difficult role here in creating a free and fair election. And we certainly need to see that. Keep involved that the United States is providing $500 million in aid to Bangladesh, much of it going to the Rohingya refugee program. No one accuses the United States of interfering in Bangladesh by providing that aid. It's not interference, it's assistance.
Right, and what do you believe will be the next steps in terms of U.S. action on this issue, especially with an incoming Trump administration? You may remember how vocal he was and one of the first people amongst the international world leaders to condemn the violence in Bangladesh.
Well, one problem with people who are used to foreign policy as it's been for 100 years and longer, where governments and the leaders, particularly the United States, are careful and measured, but then follow up. They mean what they say, and they don't say it if they don't mean it. Trump is an entertainer first, and he did make a good, strong, a strong statement, but he could change his mind tomorrow and do something else. We have one government at a time. That is the Biden presidency, and I hope that by the time Trump takes office, that matters in Bangladesh have cooled considerably, and that we're in a position then to push for fair and free elections. The rest of the U.S. government, not the White House, but the State Department and its organs, will be much more measured in their comments. They may say less, they may say it less strongly, but whatever they say on Monday, they're also going to believe on Friday. Trump, you're going to have to get used to, and new Trump is even harder to get used to old Trump, and the world will have to react to what the American people have done.
All right, Brad Sherman, U.S. Congressman, thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking to us here at Times Now.